thought he had finally arrived when they gave him the corner office, but he didn't realize he had just signed a contract to become the most expensive piece of furniture in the building. It was 2017. He was 38 years old, working as a senior project manager for a Tier 2 construction consultancy. He was the person who made things happen. When a project was sliding into the red or a client was losing their patience, he was the one they sent in. He was efficient, he was liked, and most importantly, he was effective. He earned $95,000 a year. He had a team of 4, a manageable workload, and he usually made it home in time to put his sons to bed. Then came the annual review. His boss, a man who measured success by the number of unread emails in his inbox, sat him down and told him exactly what he wanted to hear. "You are a leader. You are the future of this firm. We want to make you an associate director." In the world of professional ego, a title change is a powerful drug. For him, associate director felt like a threshold. It was the moment he would stop being a doer and start being a decider. It was the validation he had been chasing since his first internship. He didn't even look at the numbers. He just saw the new business cards in his mind. When the contract actually arrived, the salary increase was $8,000, from 95 to 103. After taxes, in his bracket, it was an extra $400 a month. At the time, he barely noticed the smallness of the raise. He was too focused on the prestige. He shook hands, he updated his LinkedIn profile, and he accepted the promotion that would change nothing about his wealth, but everything about his life. Let's look at the price of that decision over the next 5 years. The first thing that changed wasn't his bank account, it was his calendar. As a senior project manager, he was responsible for projects. As an associate director, he was responsible for people, politics, and the internal machinery of the firm. His day no longer started at 8:30. It started at 6:45 with a flurry of messages from the partners. His day no longer ended at 5:30. It ended whenever the last crisis was managed, which was usually long after his sons had fallen asleep. He traded the work he was good at for the work the company didn't want to pay an executive to do. He became a high-level administrator. He spent 40 hours a week in meetings that could have been emails, and then spent another 20 hours a week doing the actual work he was now too busy to manage during the day. The $8,000 raise worked out to about $3 an hour when you factored in the additional 20 hours a week he was now working. He had effectively taken a pay cut to have a better title, but the real cost was the stagnation disguised as progress. Because he was now an associate director, he felt he had to stay and prove he could do the job. He felt a sense of loyalty to the title. For 5 years, he stayed in that corner office. He got his standard 3% cost of living adjustments. By 2022, he was earning $118,000. Meanwhile, the market was moving without him. The people who had been his peers back in 2017, the ones who didn't get the prestige promotion or the ones who left the firm when they realized the raise was a pittance, were now making $150,000 or $160,000 at other companies. They had realized that a title is only worth what someone else is willing to pay for it. He had become associate director at a firm that was notorious for being top-heavy and underpaying. In the recruitment world, we call this the title trap. Companies use impressive-sounding designations as a substitute for real compensation. They give you a crown so you won't notice they're not giving you a raise. By year 5, he was exhausted. He had missed 5 years of his children's lives. He was associate director of a department that was shrinking. He had a fancy title on his resume, but when he finally started looking at the market, he realized a hard truth. Other firms didn't care that he was an associate director. They cared about what he had actually built in the last 5 years. And all he had built was a series of internal reports and a high tolerance for stress. He had spent 5 years defending a title that had no liquidity. You can't pay a mortgage with a business card. You can't buy back the missed bedtimes with a seat at the leadership table. When he finally came to see a recruiter, he was desperate. He told me, "I'm an associate director. I should be earning more. I had to tell him that in the eyes of the market, he was a senior project manager who had been out of the game for 5 years. He was rusty. He had spent so long managing internal politics that he had lost touch with the technical edge that had made him valuable in the first place. I see this pattern in every industry. The person who stays for the promise of the next rung on the ladder, never realizing the ladder is leaning against a crumbling wall. They accept the promotion because it feels like growth, but it's actually a horizontal move into a more stressful cage. We often confuse being busy with being important, and we confuse being important with being valuable. The company made him feel important so they could keep him busy without ever having to pay for his true value. The cost of his decision wasn't just the $200,000 in lost wages he could have earned if he had moved to a competitor. The cost was the 5 years he spent in the illusion of arrival. He thought he was climbing. He was actually just treading water in a more expensive suit. In recruitment, we watch people trade their piece for a word: director, lead, associate. These words are free for a company to give. They cost the employer nothing, but for the employee, they can cost everything. He eventually left that firm. He took a job at a smaller company. His new title, project manager, just project manager, no associate, no director. But they paid him $145,000. He works 40 hours a week. He sees his kids. He had to lose the title to find his value. He had to admit that the promotion he had toasted to in 2017 was the worst financial decision of his life. Every promotion has a shadow. Sometimes it's a shadow of responsibility that helps you grow. But other times, it's just a shadow that hides the fact that you aren't going anywhere. He sat in that corner office for half a decade, waiting for the title to change his life. It did. It made him tired, it made him stagnant, and it made him relatively poorer every single year. The next time you are offered a seat at the table, look at the chair. If the chair is made of gold, but the floor is made of sand, you aren't being promoted, you are being anchored. He was the backbone of the department until he realized the backbone is usually the part that breaks first under the weight of someone else's expectations. He chose the title over the market. He chose the ego over the equity. And he stayed long enough to watch the world pass him by from the window of a very quiet, very lonely corner office. Success isn't what you are called, it's what you own. It's your time, your health, and your ability to leave. By accepting that promotion, he gave up his ability to leave for 5 years because he was too afraid to lose the only thing they had given him, a label. In the end, the company didn't care when he left. They replaced the associate director in 2 weeks. They found another ambitious 38-year-old who was hungry for a title and didn't know how to do the math. The machine keeps running. The titles stay the same. Only the people burn out. He thought he was the winner that night in 2017. He thought he had beaten the system, but the system always knows that the cheapest way to keep a good person is to tell them they are special, give them a bigger desk, and wait for them to forget what they are actually worth. Every decision has a cost. Some we pay in cash, others we pay in the years we can never get back. He paid in both, and the worst part is he thought he was getting a bargain.